I spent 2 years of my childhood in an extremely abusive relationship, but it wasn't even until months after I ended things that I even started to realize that it was abusive. Story time. As I talked about on my page, this was an extremely abusive relationship, but I genuinely had no idea that it was considered abusive. And that's crazy for me to think back on because I remember the awakening I had when I started to realize. Now, see, every day after school, I would come home around 3 o'clock and Dr. Phil would be on TV. And I know, Dr. Phil is not a good person or a good therapist or a licensed therapist. But I'm not gonna lie, I actually did learn quite a bit from his show. It was genuinely my favorite TV show because it had all the drama of like Maury, but it just felt a little bit classier. And I was really interested in psychology. So as a teenager who knew literally nothing at all, it actually did educate me a little bit, okay? I'm not gonna lie. So I remember Dr. Phil would talk about abusive relationships. And sometimes people would go on the show and they would talk about things that their partner did to them. And it would be like 1% of what Jamie did to me. And yet Dr. Phil and the audience would act shocked. And he would say how horrible that is and how dare you treat this person like that. And I would think, wait, is it really that bad, what he did to me? What would Dr. Phil say if he knew all that Jamie did to me? Because he's acting like it's such a huge deal that this person yelled at this other person and called them names, but Jamie did far worse than that to me. And that would really confuse me. I would think like, oh, I must have been in an abusive relationship, but I would also have imposter syndrome. I didn't want to even tell myself in my own mind that I was abused if I didn't deserve to use that word. I was really putting a lot of thought into this, and it was blowing my mind to think that I was abused. Of course, later I would realize that I had been being abused my entire life, but I genuinely didn't know. I remember Dr. Phil had this list, and sometimes he would put it on the screen on TV, and he would say, this is the list that I made of things that count for abuse. And it would be like 20, 25 things, right? And I would carefully, methodically go over this list and realize that Jamie did every single thing on that list to me, except for one. The one that he didn't do had to do with couples that have children together. And Jamie and I didn't have children. So that one just didn't apply. But every other thing on there, he did. Dr. Phil would say, oh, so if your partner does like 3 of these things, then they're abusive or something. And I'd be like, no, he does like all of them. At the same time, I was taking a psychology class at school. And again, the things that she talked about were like very small in comparison to what Jamie had done to me. And she would make it sound like those things were like horrific. Of course, I was going through all of these emotions and awakenings alone. I really had nobody. I didn't really have any friends because I had lost contact with everybody when I was with Jamie. And I was too ashamed to come crawling back to them now, and especially to tell them what I had been through. And my dad was just completely checked out and wasn't really equipped to help me, even if I did try to go to him. But sometimes I would cry to him and tell him, like, I want to have a home. I want to have a real family. I would try my best to clean our house and rearrange furniture and dig decorations out of the garage to try to make it feel like home, but it just didn't. And I couldn't understand why. I was starting to kind of make friends with some girls at school, and I would go to their houses and see that their parents still treated them like they were kids. They would still sit down with them at the dinner table and make them do their homework and make them food and talk to them and be involved. I would be at their house just trying to hold back tears because I wanted that so bad. And I hadn't had that in years. It hadn't felt like I had a home and a family or anywhere that I belonged since I was 7. But it was the little things too. I remember hanging out at one of my friends' houses one day, and her mom came in and started talking to her. She said, hey, I was at Walmart and I got you this dress I thought you would like. And she, laid it on her bed, and my friend was like, oh, thanks. And I just remembered my mom used to do that for me when I was little, and I missed that. Going to their houses made me realize that I was supposed to still be a kid. I was supposed to be loved. I was supposed to be cared for and watched over. Sitting in their houses, I felt so out of place. I felt like everybody could see through me. They could see that there was something wrong with me, that I was gross and used up. And I mean, I had not only been through that relationship, but I had also had addictions, and I'd done lots of crazy things. Well, these girls, they hadn't even had their first kiss yet. I felt like my life was over and theirs were just beginning. One night my school had a little event, and that girl I was hanging out with, we'll call her Jane. Jane and I hung out at the event. There was this boy that she was kind of starting to date. You know, it was so innocent and so sweet. There was sort of like a talent show at this event, and when it was his turn, he went up and played the guitar and sang a song to her. He serenaded her in front of the whole school. It was really sweet. And after the event, her mom drove me home, and in the car, Jane started to cry. I didn't know what was wrong, but then I realized that it was happy tears. She was crying that this boy had sang that song to her, and she was openly telling her mom about it, and they were talking about it together. I thought about how even if a boy did do something like that for me, I would feel too embarrassed to tell my mom. She would probably make an uncomfortable joke about it, and it would just be awkward. And I thought, wow, I've had two real serious boyfriends, one of them living with me for over a year, and they treated me like garbage. What was wrong with me? I didn't even think that other girls were getting this kind of treatment from boys. And now it was too late for me. I was too fucked up. No boy would want to do something like that for me. I didn't know that it was the standard that you held yourself to. But it didn't feel like I was holding myself to a low standard. It just felt like I was desperate for love. Love that I was supposed to be getting from my parents and my family, but I felt like I had no choice but to seek it in stupid guys. And since I was so desperate for that attention and affection, I wasn't holding out for a better guy. I was just going for any guy that I felt like I could attain. And anyway, I felt like I was too far gone now. A sweet guy like that Jane was dating, he deserved a sweet girl like Jane. He deserved a girl that was just as innocent as him. It felt like it was too late for me to get someone like that, because then I would be the bad influence on them. Jane and that boy were cut from the same cloth, and I was just going for guys that I thought were cut from the same cloth as me, which of course didn't put me in a good position. So anyway, let me know if you're here for the next part.